Championship provides some good clues that you're in KwaZulu-Natal. The Pietermaritzburg City Hall, the post office, and the tranquil setting of the historic pavilion in Alexandra Park, legacies of days gone by in the last outpost of the British Empire. By contrast, some sophisticated modern machinery was gathering for the start of the 1999 Stanek Rally Championship. The championship traditionally opens with the Stanek Tour Natal, with a new season always bringing with it high hopes and expectations for those with championship aspirations.
Well, it's quite an important season for us to do well. You know, we're competing against a new car that Falklands brought in, so it's quite interesting to see how the season's going to go. But we like to give it a good go at it.
Reigning South African Drivers' Champion Serge Damso in the Castrol Toyota Conquest and new navigator Guy Hodgson were first off the start ramp. Hodgson replaces the now retired Vito Bonafide, with the major challenge for the Toyota pair coming from 1997 champions Jan Habach and Doug Judd in the factory VW Golf. A change of personnel too in the Sasol Motorcraft Ford Escort, with experienced Springbok Richard Leek now sitting alongside Paolo Piazzamuso. After a spectator stage in Alexandra Park, crews were headed for special stages in the New Hanover and Howick areas. Then it was back to Sleepy Hollow, with day one scheduled to end at Umhlanga Rocks. Proceedings kicked off with a spectator-oriented special stage, with a tough task ahead of Damso and Hodgson. Teamwork is all important in a rally car, and Damso spent 17 years working with Bonafide. It was a partnership that won 7 South African titles, and now Damso and Hodgson had to get to know each other in a small and very noisy office. By way of contrast, Habach and Judd have been together for years, and their problem was to get to grips with a brand new VW Golf 4 kit car, with Habach admitting that he was not 100% comfortable with left-hand drive. There was also a getting-to-know-you factor in the Sasol Motorcraft Ford Escort, but Paolo Piazzamuso and Richard Leek appear to be coping well enough.
First R2 between trees. 80 meters R3.
Local crew Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the Team Total Toyota Conquest have also spent years together, with the Natalians completing the entries in the Premier Class A8 category. They'll be looking for more consistency this season, with that commodity no problem in the past for reigning Class A7 champions Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding in the Reeks 711 VW Golf. Behind van der Walt and Harding were another established crew in Hergen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dunair Toyota Conquest. The pair dominated Class A6 last season, with indications that the talented Fecken has finally come of age in the tough world of rallying. In rally terms, popular Group N champion Hannes Hrobler came of age years ago.
We've got a few competitors in Group N3, like Cliffy Blackman, Fisher Duplessis and a few other guys. And we're looking forward to a very strong competition this year. And also the Corollas and the Conquest that's in Group N2, they've worked hard on the cars, and I believe the cars are very fast. So I think they're going to give us a run for our money as well.
After the spectator stage in Pietermaritzburg, it was down to the nitty-gritty of forest rallying. Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson were just 2 seconds slower than Jan Habach and Douglas Judd in Special Stage 1, with Special Stage 2 offering a contrast in conditions. Slow and bumpy sections were interspersed with ultra-quick sections, and while Damso and Hodgson were being circumspect on a slower part of the route, Paolo Piazzamuso and Richard Leek were picking up a head of steam on one of the faster pieces of road.
Double caution, Sunbrock over there. 50, double caution, Sunbrock, followed by left-hander. Caution, jump down, and caution again.
Regular followers of the Stanek Rally Championship were looking forward to a good Class A7 battle between reigning champions Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding, and Pretoria pair Barry Hrobelaar and Mike Burrows in the Team Total VW Golf. Both teams were going well in the early stages, while down in Group N, the Natal pairing of Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen had lost early ground to the Hrobelaar-Harrington combination. Weather conditions were hot and steamy, and it was hard work out there. While Blackman and Klaassen were battling on, there were early concerns for the Sasol Motorcraft Ford team, with technicians hard at work on the Piazzamuso Leek car at the end of Special Stage 2.
Well, it's certainly a point of concern. It was quite a rocky stage with quite a lot of sump rocks, and I think we hit one of those, and it subsequently cracked the sump, which is really not a good thing to have. We're going to try and close it up, and if we got some time later on in the day, try and change it. But it's quite a lengthy job, so I think we just have to nurse it a bit now and see how it goes.
At the end of special stage 2, Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson held a 1-second lead over Jan Habak and Douglas Judd and picked up another second on the VW Golf crew on special stage 3. The Etienne Lawrence-Robert Paisley combination was 9 seconds behind Piazza Musso and Leek in 4th place, with a high-speed Jump providing a few crews with a heart-stopping moment. Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz went through with a big thump, but no apparent damage to the Dun Air Conquest. But there were problems for Group N and Class N3 leaders Hannes Krobler and Wiley Harrington. The total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra was in coast mode, and it was obvious that something was seriously amiss. Durban Garage owner Tony Ball and Marty Olivier also landed with a mighty thump after their encounter with the Jump, but yet again there was no apparent damage. While Ball and Olivier continued on their merry way, it was the end of the road for Krobler and Harrington. The Nissan Sentra had finally given up the ghost, and that put KwaZulu-Natal crew Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen into the Group N and Class N3 lead. Blackman and Klaassen weren't taking any chances with the Jump, a case of a little local knowledge perhaps, while service crew ruefully surveyed broken engine bits and pieces from the Krobler-Harrington car.
In the 3rd stage, the engine mounting just broke, and a piece of the engine mounting fell into the fan belt. The fan belt came out, and we couldn't change the fan belt quick enough, so we're basically out.
There was more drama on special stage 4 when a Jump launched the Damso-Hodgson Castrol Toyota into the air. The car then thumped a log on the side of the road, and that threw the steering out of kilter. Damso immediately slowed down, and on a special stage just short of 25 kilometers in length, the Castrol Toyota crew dropped 44 seconds to Jan Habak and Douglas Judd. A thoughtful spectator kindly moved the errant log out of the way before Habak and Judd arrived on the scene, but where Damso and Hodgson were concerned, the damage had already been done. A most personable fellow in everyday life, Jan Habak turns into a tiger in a rally car. The Italian is fast and aggressive, with Habak and Judd turning a 2-second deficit at the end of stage 2 into a 42-second lead at the end of stage 3. Such is the life in the world of rallying. The Piazza Musso Leek Ford Escort was mobile again, but there were more problems for the team. They picked up a puncture and dropped 64 seconds to Habak and Judd. Piazza Musso and Leek also dropped 14 seconds to Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, with the team total crew closing to within 3 seconds of the Sasol Motorcraft Ford. Behind Lawrence and Paisley, the Fecken-Lukowitz pairing was trying to make up a 25-second deficit on Class A6 leaders Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Ari.
300, Bridget to T90 right over rut. Bridget to T90 right over rut. 100. Bridget to T90 right rut. 200 Jump.
Special stage 3 also saw the demise of Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding, who went out with engine failure. That was a rare blot on their reliability record and left Class A7 in the hands of Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows, and the Bulwer Park Golf GTI in the hands of Tony Ball and Marty Olivier. Ball is a multiple Natal rally champion with vast experience and an intimate knowledge of KwaZulu-Natal conditions. The battle between the two Volkswagen crews loaded with interest. With Hannes Krobler and Wiley Harrington now cast in the role of spectators, Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen had taken the lead in Class N3 and also led the Group N category. Chasing after them were Cape crew Diffie Moreira and Donny Duval, who picked up a 30-second penalty when they were 3 minutes late at a control point after being delayed by a puncture on an open section. While that was a bit of a setback for the Toyota Corolla crew, Blackman and Klaassen were now firmly in the Group N saddle, with Blackman the first to acknowledge that a little luck had gone their way in rougher than expected conditions.
Yeah, well, to Hannes's bad luck, we've just inherited the lead of Group N. We were about 17 seconds behind him at the time. Just shows the stages that we're doing are very rough. Hannes broke her engine mounting and her fan belt jumped off, and just shows you've got to really watch the rocks here. I don't know why we're on such rough stages, but it's really hard on the cars.
A big crowd was on hand back at Alexandra Park late in the day for the penultimate special stage on day 1. This time around, the leading 10 cars started in reverse order, with Tony Ball and Marty Olivier in the Bulwer Park VW Golf involved in a top of Class A7 battle with the team total VW Golf of Pretoria crew Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows. The Ball-Olivier combination was holding on to a narrow lead over the Gauteng pair in an interesting confrontation in a class dominated by Volkswagen. Class A6 is Toyota territory, and here the fight was between reigning champions Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dunair Conquest, and the team total conquest of Jean-Pierre Damseau and Pierre Aris. Intermittent rain showers were starting to make life a little tricky for crews, but the Sasol Motorcraft Ford Escort of Paolo Piazzamuso and Richard Leake was going along steadily in third place.
3 on the tar. Then you got this right hand into hump L2. Then you got fork L1 long.
At the front of the field, the Castrol Toyota Conquest steering had been restored to full working order, but Serge Damseau and Guy Hodgson trailed the factory VW Golf of Jan Habak and Doug Judd by 39 seconds. The vagaries of rallying altered that situation, with Habak and Judd picking up a puncture early in the stage, and the 1997 champions dropped 20 seconds to the Toyota pair, with their lead cut to 19 seconds. KwaZulu-Natal crew Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen were still pulling the strings at the front of the Group N category, and were just over a minute ahead of Cape pair, Diffie Marais and Donny Duval in the Toyota Corolla. Marais and Duval dropped 37 seconds to the local crew on stage 5, and a 30-second penalty dropped them further behind Blackman and Klaassen, with only the short spectator special stage at Umschlanger Rocks remaining on day 1. There was another huge crowd turnout, another inverted order start, and very little change in the status quo in the Class A7 scrap between Tony Ball and Marty Olivier, and Barry Krobbler and Mike Burrows. There wasn't much change either in the Class A6 battle between Fecken and Lukowitz and the JP Damseau-Aris combination. Damseau and Aris were a second quicker on the Umschlanger stage, and that stretched their overnight lead to a mere 9 seconds. Light rain was also falling in Umschlanger, with none of the top crews taking any chances at this late stage of day 1. Lawrence and Paisley were still fourth and were just over half a minute behind the Piazzamuso-Leake Ford Escort. Piazzamuso was something of a spectator stage expert and set the fastest time, albeit by only a second, to give the Sasol Motorcraft team a little boost. The Alexandra Park stage also left the factory VW Golf with a steering problem, and for left turns at Umschlanger, Jan Habak was forced to make use of muscle power and the handbrake. Damseau and Hodgson were being careful not to bang wheels on curbs, while Group N leaders Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen were also a little circumspect on the Umschlanger stage. The pair were now 10th overall and posted the same time through the stage as the Toyota Corollas of Diffie Marais and Donny Duval, and Class N2 leaders Skalk Berger and Martin Buerta in the Bridgestone Quality Tyres car. Berger and Buerta were only 26 seconds behind Blackman and Klaassen and were in control of a Class N2 battle that also included the team total Toyota Corolla of Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper. Aging but still spectacular is the best way to describe the rear-wheel drive Nissan Skyline in the hands of Kali van der Merwe and André Vermeulen. The Pretoria pair were into the top 10, but with the Skyline, a Class S20 entry, van der Merwe and Vermeulen were not eligible for championship points. They were 9th overall at the end of day 1, with only 20 seconds between rally leaders Habak and Judd and Damseau and Hodgson. Good battles were on the go in Class A7 and Class A6, and in the Group N categories, with matters interestingly poised. At the end of a tough day, service areas were a hive of late-night activity, while crews took stock of proceedings.
Well, that's what I said at the start of the stage. One's got to be very careful, because that's where you can lose a lot of time. And we got a puncture just before a hairpin, and we rode over the pavement and bent the steering rack quite badly. So we couldn't turn left, and we lost a lot of time. But fortunately, we've been able to fix it, and I think we'll be on full steam again tomorrow morning.
When Parc Fermé opened in Umschlanger Rocks on day 2 of the Stanek Tour Natal, there was plenty of blue sky and sunshine, with every prospect of ideal conditions for rallying. At the front of the field, Jan Habak and Doug Judd held a 20-second lead, but for Group N frontrunners Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen, matters were a little tighter.
There's no choice. We just got to go, take it as it comes. We're going to have to go flat out. We've got Skalk only 16 seconds behind us, and the competition's been steep. So with the smooth stages, at least today, we can push, and I think we've got a good chance of keeping them behind us.
Crews were headed down the KwaZulu-Natal south coast for special stages in the Park Riney, Umzinto areas, and en route the weather turned nasty. The rain came bucketing down and set the scene for early drama, with rally leaders Jan Habak and Doug Judd the first to suffer. The VW Golf kit car was a recent arrival in South Africa from Germany, and the first special stage of the day was an inopportune time for Habak and Judd to discover that the demisters were not fully functional. With their visibility seriously impaired, the pair dropped 50 seconds on Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson, and a 20-second overnight lead had, in the space of one special stage, turned into a 30-second deficit. Once again, the vagaries of rallying had brought a dramatic turnabout, and the Castrol Toyota pair suddenly found themselves in the pound seats. Not that Habak and Judd were the only ones to suffer. The service van carrying the Sasol Motorcraft team's tyres went missing on the open section from Durban to Park Riney, and Paolo Piazzamuzzo and Richard Leek started the first stage of the day on the wrong tyres. That led to an off-road excursion that cost them 10 minutes and dropped them way down the pecking order. The Piazzamuzzo-Leek encounter with KwaZulu-Natal fauner and flora lifted Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley into third place in the team total Toyota Conquest, and teammates JP Damso and Pierre Aris started special stage 8 in fourth place.
I think we're going to have to take it a bit easy in the beginning, get used to the chicane because we haven't been here for a year, and then I think this afternoon the pace is going to be quite quick this afternoon.
Those tactics backfired on Damso and Aris when they also went off the road. They dropped 45 seconds to Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dunair Toyota Conquest, who now found themselves 36 seconds to the good in the Class A6 fight. In treacherous conditions, one special stage had seen changes in the overall lead, and at the top of Class A8 and A6. Then the Tony Ball Marty Olivier Bulwell Park VW Golf blew its gearbox, and Barry Krobbler and Mike Burrows went tootling past in the team total Golf to take the lead in Class A7. One special stage had turned the 41st Stanek Tour Natal upside down. At the Aquifer Service Park, technical crew worked in far from ideal conditions, with first priority for Habak and Judd, that demister problem.
2Ks in the stage, we went through a massive water splash, and the whole windscreen misted up, and we couldn't see anything for the next 10-12 Ks. So, yeah, I think we better get the act together now. You know, we'll put the demisters on and sort them out quickly, and I'm sure that'll help a lot.
Matters weren't improving either for Paolo Piazzamuzzo and Richard Leek, who were still waiting for their wet weather tyres to arrive.
We were hoping to change to mud tyres for this stage here. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that, and the conditions are so tricky there, we just couldn't keep a car on the road. So we got stuck on an earth bank. We had to dig ourselves out, which is unfortunate. And it's going to be a tough one now again because we're still on the same tyres, so we'll just have to plod through it.
Special stage 9, and still the drama continued. Now it was reigning Class A6 champions Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz who were in trouble. Having just taken over the lead in Class A6, it was the turn of the Dunair Toyota Conquest to pick up a puncture early on in the 15-kilometre stage. While they tippy-tappied through the mud, it was full steam ahead for the Van der Merwe Vermeulen Nissan Skyline and Group N leaders Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen. Natal pair Chris de Witt and Alec Harris were starting to make progress in Class A6 in another Toyota Conquest, with Skalk Berger and Martin Buerter on the comeback trail. Leading Class N2 overnight, they were also special stage 8 victims when they rolled the Bridgestone Quality Tyres Toyota Corolla, and the pair had a long haul ahead of them to claw their way back into the points. The Berger-Buerter trials and tribulations had turned Class N2 into a straight fight between the Toyota Corollas of Kate pair Diffie Moreira and Donnie Duval, and Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper. Saunders is the son of former works driver Eric Saunders, and after a conservative start was starting to pick up the pace. In his first Class A7 outing, Kees Klein, partnered by Johan Barnard, was also picking up the pace, much to the delight of his private fan club. Doug Kemsley and Jerry Herica was second in Class S20 in the spectacular Automark Toyota Baki, with Rodney Fasaki and Caroline Simmer topping Class N1 in the team total Toyota Taz. Conditions were still very tricky, and at the Aquifer Service Park there was many a tale of woe.
Well, the morning didn't start off so well. We came around the right hand and we clipped the bank and lifted the front wheel and rolled on his roof. Very slow roll, but we lost a lot of time. The car was lying on his roof and we battled to get it back on his wheels.
The Kemsley-Herica Bucky was also showing battle scars, but the crew were enjoying themselves, with Top Car magazine publisher Kemsley still in jovial mood.
It was wetter last year, but it's fast becoming as bad as it was last year, and the pickup, she weighs 1.4 tons, and she's quite a handful. But we're having fun. We're driving to our pace, and we'll be there at the end. That's the main thing, because everybody seems to be taking excursions into the cane.
A battered wheel rim and scraps of attached rubber mirrored Jürgen Fecken's problems.
The first stage this morning we took 30 seconds off JP and we caught him, we were 20 seconds ahead. And on this last stage we had a puncture. So now we're 2 minutes 16 seconds behind him again. So we have to catch him.
With around half a minute separating Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson and the Havoc-Judd factory VW Golf after 11 special stages, the advantage still lay with the Castrol Toyota crew. Any sort of cushion is welcome in conditions where a single mistake can radically alter matters, and the onus was on Havoc and Judd to cut into the Damso-Hodgson lead. That in itself creates pressure, with the ever-present danger that a little off-road excursion means more valuable time lost. There wasn't much pressure where Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were concerned. The Natal crew in a safe and lonely third place, but behind them, JP Damso and Pierre Aris were rapidly being hauled in by Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukovic. The laid-back Fecken comes from a rally background, and where up-and-coming young drivers are concerned, has emerged in the last couple of seasons as a shining light on the horizon. The steady Barry Hrobler and Mike Burrows had a tight hold on Class A7 honours and were 6th overall behind the slugging match between the two Class A6 Toyotas. Hrobler and Burrows also had a comfortable cushion over Cully van der Merwe and Andre Vermeulen, with the big rear-wheel drive Nissan Skyline a handful in these conditions. Rodney Visagie and Caroline Simmer still led Class N1 in the team total Toyota Taz and could have done with some of the Skyline's power.
You've got to commit yourself. There's no room for error on these things because you've got no power to pull you out of any trouble or anything like that. It's more precision driving basically on these little cars.
There's a big jump between Class N1 and Class A8, and at the other end of the scale, rally leader Serge Damso knew exactly what was expected of him over the closing stages.
It's better to have 22 seconds ahead and 22 seconds behind. So I've just got to try and make sure I keep it on the road and keep going until the end of the rally.
Bridgestone quality tyres pair Skalk Berger and Martin Boerter at the start of special stage 14, followed by Sanders and Hooper, who not far into the stage came across teammates Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen, who'd rolled the team total Nissan Sentra, and that put Sanders and Hooper into the lead in the Group N category, as well as Class N2. The conservative approach in the early stages was paying dividends for the pair, who just missed out on last year's Class N2 championship. Also going strongly in blasts from the past were Eastern Cape crew Dolph Coetzee and Eddie van der Walt in an aging Toyota Conquest, and local crew Paul Gouveia and Skalk van Heerden, who were now second in Class S20 in a slightly long-in-the-tooth Nissan Sentra Coupe. The Blackman-Klaassen roll took care of the last of the Class N3 runners, with Rodney Visagie and Caroline Simmer still firmly in the saddle in Class N1, despite a puncture on stage 14. They had a 7-minute cushion over Mike Houghton, brother of off-road champion Robin, and co-driver Bryn Doherty in another Toyota Taz. Visagie and Simmer looked safe enough, although rallying is always unpredictable. The weather was just as unpredictable, with the rain coming and going, but for new Group N leader Dean Sanders, matters were working out nicely. Thank you very much.
We've been pushed into the lead a bit with Cliffy rolling, but we've played it right, I think, on this rally. We took it easy, we've saved the car, and it's worked out very well for us. Yeah.
Matters were also working out nicely for Cully van der Merwe and Andre Vermeulen, although they'd given up on trying to move further up the leaderboard.
At the moment we're still lying 8th. We've got a lot of problems with the Skyline in the wet. We haven't got the proper wets, so the Group N cars are a lot faster than us. But we're keeping there and just staying on the road, and there's no way we can try to catch Hergen and those type of the Conquest and Class C or the Class A6 cars. But we're just trying to stay there and get it there to the end.
Conditions were improving when the penultimate special stage on the Stanek Tour Natal got underway, and time was running out for overnight leaders and 1997 champions Jan Havoc and Douglas Judd. The factory VW Golf crew was still around half a minute adrift of the Castrol Toyota of Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson, but as is so often the case in national championship rallying, there was a sting in the tail. Damso and Hodgson were motoring along without a care in the world when the Castrol Toyota pair were given a huge wake-up call. That little escapade cost Damso and Hodgson 16 seconds, with the Damso family right in the thick of high drama. Behind his father, young JP and Pierre Aris dug deep into their reserves to come up with a demon stage time that took them 5 seconds clear of the chasing Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukovic, with just one special stage remaining. Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows were also 6th overall and leading Class A7, and behind them Diffie Moreira and Donny DeVol were having to hold off a late charge from Skalkberger and Martin Buerta. Berger and former SA Navigators champion Buerta were now 3rd in Class N2 and had staged a great fight back after their Stage 8 roll. At the front of Class N2, it was now a stroll for Dean Sanders and Graham Hooper, who'd also worked their way into 8th overall in the Team Total Toyota Corolla. All they now had to do was keep the car on the road. Up at the service point at the end of the stage, Damso and Toyota technical crew were anxiously examining the Castrol Toyota Conquest.
Yeah, it's unfortunately we went through a clearings and the instruction was like going straight through the clearance. In the meantime, it was sort of a left sweep, and of course we went straight into the sugar cane.
The Toyota technical crew quickly replaced the damaged radiator, but more drama was lurking for Damso Sr. and Hodgson. As far as the younger Damso was concerned, he now had the slightest of cushions over Fecken in the intriguing Class A6 battle.
Before the stage we were dead even, and we managed to take 5 seconds now. So it gives us a 5-second advantage, and I hope we can keep it that way.
The final special stage back at Umhlanga Rocks, and this time the entire field started in reverse order. The big drama before the Umhlanga stage centered around Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson, with the Castrol Toyota Conquest jamming in 6th gear on the long open section between Park Riney and Umhlanga. To safeguard against a penalty for lateness at the Umhlanga control point, the Toyota technical crew were forced to change the gearbox in record time, and a relieved Damso and Hodgson were still 15 seconds to the good over Jan Habak and Doug Judd. But there was no such problems for overall Group N leaders Sanders and Hooper in the Team Total Toyota Corolla RSI. After a second off-road excursion late in the day, Paolo Piazzamuso and Richard Leake were a disappointing 17th overall in the Sasol Motorcraft Ford Escort, and along with Kali van der Merwe and Andre Vermeulen gave another huge crowd their money's worth. Piazzamuso shared the quickest time on the last stage with Jürgen Fecken, but it was not enough for Fecken and Lukovic to overhaul JP Damso and Pierre Aris, who were a great 4th overall behind Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley. Having overcome potential disaster over the last 2 special stages, all that was left was for Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson to make sure they didn't do anything silly and allow Jan Habak and Doug Judd to nip in via the back door. Always the chargers, Habak and Judd made heavy contact with one of Umhlanga's curbs, but damaged tyre and all still managed to match the time set by Damso and Hodgson, although it was all a little too late. A great event for the Damso family, with overall victory for Serge and Guy Hodgson, and 4th overall in Class A6 honours for young JP and Pierre Aris. Class A7 went to Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows, with Dean Sanders and Graham Hooper winning Group N and Class N2. Class N1 went to Rodney Fasaki and Caroline Simmer, with Toyota winning the Manufacturers Award.
It wasn't an easy rally for us. Yanni gave us a good go. I mean, this morning he started ahead of us and he lost a bit of time, and the whole day we've been really trying hard, against each other. But at the end of the day, we made a bit of mistakes towards the end too. We had a radiator change, and then we had a problem with the gearbox, so we had to change the gearbox. So I'm glad it's all over.
A proud moment for Group N winners Dean Sanders and Graham Hooper, and the pair celebrated in style.
It's amazing, I tell you. We didn't expect it yesterday, but now we through and we've put the points on the board and we're off to a great start.
Don't forget to keep in touch with rallying matters on the Stanek website. That's stanecrally.co.za.